Hello, welcome to this video on what makes marriage work. Now, if like me, you may have been wondering, why is it that humankind haven't come up with a solution to resolve marital problems? To fix all the marriages. I think we've gone past the 50% divorce rate, and one in at least one in two people when they get married, they think, you know what, this may not work out. Why haven't we been able to resolve these issues and make marriages work once and for all as a human race? Well, good question. And I'm here to tell you that it isn't because we don't have the answers. We do have the answers. It's called the sound relationship house theory. And so I'm going to go through what the sound relationship house theory is and explain to you how it is the solution for resolving marital conflict and marital issues, and why in the world we're not using it to save our marriages. I've got no idea. And so my purpose is to try as a relationship coach to kind of get the word out there and get people to start fixing their marriage and experiencing joy in their lives. We know that happy, successful marriages and happy, successful families create happy, successful communities and thriving societies as a whole. And so we know that the family is one of the most important factors for making a nation a success and thrive, and a healthy nation. All the fundamental principles of morality and do to others what you expect others to do to you. These things are taught in a home by loving parents. And so the family is a tremendous resource for any nation to build itself. But I'm going to talk to you about the sound relationship house theory. Now, it's based on research, and it is on what makes good relationships good and what makes bad relationships bad. It was developed by John and Julie Gottman of the Gottman Institute, and it's based on 4 decades of research with thousands of couples. So the research started in the 1980s, the mid 1980s. It was John Gottman and Bob Levinson who were professors at the Washington University and they developed what's called the Love Lab. And so if you can imagine, this is a university lab room, and they kind of turned it into like a bed and breakfast kind of setting where they got couples to come in and they will be observed for a period of 24 hours, and they from the observation, they were able to determine what the couples that were successful were doing and what the couples that were not so successful were doing. And they categorize these couples as the masters and the disasters. So this research. The results of this research is grounded in some of the most thorough and best research results have been grounded in some of the most best research out there. Sorry, I'm not able to speak sometimes. My words escape me. Let's talk about the methods of data collection that they used in the Love Lab. They use video cameras, and so these couples, they had like four cameras on them constantly, and they well, uh, not constantly, but you know what I mean. Long enough to get the data that they needed, and then turned off when it wasn't necessary. so, so they were collecting nonverbal communication, detailed analysis about how the couples communicated and interacted with each other. Other methods of data collection that they use were to do with physiological arousal, heart rate. They were checking for when the couples were sweating, which was an indication of stress. They were even checking the urine samples, where they would find that they would see the level of cortisol, the stress hormone, in their urine. Um, I'm making a video, son. It's okay. They had a system called the specific affect coding system, which was focused on the negative and positive behaviors that were being coded in as the couples interacted with each other. They had key observational tasks that they gave the couples, they would ask them to, try to resolve a conflict, and they would watch their body language and their behavior with each other, and they were able to analyze their communication patterns, and were able to determine what they were doing that was good and what some couples that were doing that were not so good. They would have historical, verbal, historical, oral historical interviews where they would talk about how they met and how they fell in love with each other, and just look for what positive uh, tone and storytelling came out of those experiences. Um, they had unstructured time where the couples would just be there doing their thing, and they were being observed as well. So let's talk about some key findings from the Love Lab. Through the Love Lab research, they were able to come up with the four horsemen of the apocalypse: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And these four horsemen of the apocalypse, I've done a video explaining what they are, and how they impact negatively on relationships, and conversely, what you can do to avoid them if you see them in your relationship. And so this this finding has become one of the key findings in understanding how to effectively communicate with your spouse. They found that the couples who were whose relationship were successful or had more chance of lasting were expressing or presenting five positive things to one negative behavior in their interactions, especially if it is a conflict interaction. So, for example, when they were talking about something, issue of conflict, the couple would, do like touch each other and laugh, and look each other in the eyes, and do certain behaviors that were positive. And the couples who were not so successful, the amount of positive to negative was about equal. Yeah, exactly, but just about equal, which goes to show that the negative that that takes place in a relationship is as heavy as five positive. And so you want to make sure that you're doing all the positive things in your relationship, and actually do a lot more positive things, because when the negative things happen, then you're in trouble. They noted that repair attempts were one of the things that the successful couples were doing in the middle of an argument. That a member of the couple would make a joke or say something funny or do something to detract from the conflict and just de-escalate the tension. So, what were some predictions and outcomes of the Love Lab research? They were able to find that 94% of the couples who they say would get the divorce at a certain time would actually happen, just like it's been predicted. And this was because of how thorough the research was, and the observation, and the vastness of the data. And they were able to establish how couples whose relationship was successful, they were able to track them over time. The research was longitudinal. So let's look at some long-term impact of the Love Lab research. So this is where the sound house relationship theory was developed, or as a result of this research, the sound house theory was developed. It came a little bit later on with Julie Schwartz Gottman, John Gottman's wife. But it was this research that gave them the information that they used to develop it. So the findings from the Love Lab also um, informed how to improve communication, how to avoid conflict and prevent conflict, and it has become a very big factor in what many couple therapists, uh, relationship coaches like myself, and many individual couples look at to see how they can improve their relationships. All right, enough about the history and the research. Let's talk about the actual findings of the Love Lab. This sound house relationship theory, if you can imagine a house with a roof and layers or levels, The first level of the house, or the foundation, is what was referred to as this idea of building love maps. And building love maps would feature as couples, the individuals who were the successful couples, they would ask each other certain open-ended questions. Questions like, "Darling, where do you see us in 10 years' time?" Or, "Darling, I know we plan to have achieved certain goals by now, which we haven't achieved. How is that affecting you? How are you doing?" And they would just ask each other some really deep, meaningful questions. And this led them to create stronger bonds of friendship. And that's what it boiled down to: couples becoming good friends and maintaining a good, strong relationship as friends. The next level on this sound relationship house theory was this idea of sheer fondness and admiration. And this is about maintaining respect and appreciation for your spouse. It's about appreciating those idiosyncratic, unique things about your spouse. That is, that things that are expressed or are known about by no other person but your spouse. And loving these things and appreciating these things created what they refer to as this idea of shared fondness and admiration. The next level on the house was this idea of turning towards instead of turning away from, or turning against. And an example of this was when they noticed that one lady was looking out the window, and I think it was maybe the San Francisco Bay. There was a yacht on the bay, and she was looking down, and she was saying, "Do you know, wouldn't it be nice if we could just get a yacht one day and just go and sail around the world?" The husband could reply in three ways. He could turn towards her, which would say, which mean he would say, "Yes, my sweetheart, that would be amazing. Hopefully, I can get the raise, or we could save some money, and we could uh, um, buy the yacht and eventually sail around the world. That would be an amazing thing to do." That's a very healthy way of turning towards. Or he could turn away, which is he would be distracted maybe on his phone or his laptop, or reading the newspaper or something. Or he could turn against, which is he would just say, "My goodness, woman, that's the craziest thing I ever heard. What in the world? When are we going to ever afford a yacht?" And so these observations that they found in the couples determine how allow them to develop what was called this idea of turning towards and away. The next level of the house was maintaining that positive perspective. And maintaining a positive perspective was particularly important in a conflict scenario where if your wife or husband brings up something, an issue, you do not assume that they mean the worst. You assume that they mean the best, and you try to understand where they're coming from, and just maintaining that positive perspective. Maintaining that positive perspective is a key factor of what makes the successful couples successful. The next level of the house was managing conflict, or should I say, is managing conflict. And they found that with managing conflict, most couples are innately different. The individuals that make up the relationship are different. And so, if they had some issues that were referred to as unresolvable conflicts, and so there are issues or factors that I may never agree with my wife on specifically because they are so different to our background, where we came from, our history, and also who we are as the individuals. But that doesn't mean that we can't manage those conflicts well and still maintain a good, healthy relationship. And the key, there are three main factors: dialoguing about the conflict, talking about them, and coming up with some sort of middle ground that would keep the conflict at bay. Sharing power and allowing your spouse to influence you. In some relationships, particularly when one member of the relationship is more dominant, the sometimes that's the men. He would not be so willing to share power with his wife, and the decision making would be all his, and he wouldn't allow her to influence him. So that was another negative factor. And The other thing was when you're in a conflict scenario and you're feeling overwhelmed and this conversation is getting a little bit heavy, just call for some time out and just take a break from the conflict, and then you can come back and you can resolve it later on when you're more fresh and you can deal with the conflict much better. The other level, and the next level of the sound relationship house, is this idea of making life dreams come true. They would talk about what, like, for example, the wife would find out that her husband, through, this idea of building love maps, her husband wants to, be a radio DJ. He's always wanted to do it all his life, and he wants to maybe try it out while he's at work, but maybe do it part time. She could decide to take the children on days when he would be leaving work and go straight there, and she would, take care of things at home and not be angry, upset that he's coming home late. This is how she could help him to make his life dream come true. She could want to be a ballerina or open a ballerina school, and he would vice versa do what he could to just help to support her to fulfill that dream. And so this is a practical way of how these couples would help each other's make each other's life dream come true. The next level, and we're getting to the top of the house now, is this idea of sheer fondness. Sorry, sheer meaning, I meant. The idea of sheer meaning has a lot to do with the specific unique culture that is created by the couple. So when you're with your family, as you know, you're a child and you're growing up, you've got your family cultures, and your spouse has theirs as well. When you come together, you have the opportunity to create a unique family culture and traditions. And if you're from the same religious background, that may help you to create this idea of shared meaning. One shared meaning that we share in my household, a tradition that's important to us, is Christmas time, and we always look forward to Christmas, and it's a big opportunity to celebrate and spend time with each other. And so that's an example of this idea of shared meaning. They found that the two pillars of this sound house, the sound relationship house, were trust and commitment. And trust is a really, really big one. When I am coaching my couples, one of the things I talk about is the attachment theory. And specifically, I look at individuals' attachment style and how they receive love and how they give love. The attachment theory came out of John Bowlby's work on how children develop these attachment styles, or they attach to their caregivers, and how this attachment style carried throughout the rest of their lives. Mary Ainsworth, another researcher and a student of John Bowlby, she did some further study on specific attachment styles. The secure attachment style is exemplified by someone who is secure enough to uh, desire to be loved by their spouses and to give love, but also know when it's time to kind of step back and allow their spouse a little bit of freedom and not be distressed or worried or too clingy, or not having a healthy relationship. Trust is a very, very important aspect of the relationship. And people think about trust like, I can tell you a secret because I trust you. And yes, that's really it is to a certain extent, but a fraction of it. The main aspect of trust is the idea that you can fall and your spouse will catch you. They'll be there for you. So when you come home from work and you're stressed out about something, you can talk to your spouse and say, look, this is an issue that I'm feeling, and you can share that issue with them, and that's a level of trust. The other pillar on this sound relationship house is commitment, and the reason why trust and commitment are such important aspect of this sound relationship house is because they are so important. Like, commitment is a thing that's going to get you to do all the other things, and so it's going to get you to do the trust. It's going to get you to do all the other aspect of this house. So, what is the challenge then that I have for you? What aspect of this sound relationship house has resonated with you as I've been speaking about it for the past few minutes? Is there something that you specifically like, or something that you think may help you in your relationship? Um, could you consider applying one item from the sound relationship house to help in your relationship this week? What would it be? Share in the comment box. I'm eager to find out what you've decided to apply to your relationship this week. And these things take time. Look, I know the theory, but I'm not a perfect husband, as my wife would say. Um, but I try, and the idea is you just express your have the commitment to try and keep trying, and you will get there. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me go on about the Sound Relationship House, and I look forward to hearing from you.